The mistake wasn't the challenge. Most people, hearing this story later, assumed that was where it went wrong, the moment two trained fighters decided to make an example of a stranger in a parking lot outside a regional tournament. That was reckless, yes. That was the kind of decision that announces itself loudly as a bad one in retrospect. But that wasn't the mistake. The mistake came after. The mistake was the video. Port Ashland was a mid-sized city that took its combat sport seriously. 3 gyms within 6 blocks of each other in the Warehouse District. A regional MMA circuit that drew competitors from 4 states. A jiu-jitsu community that organized itself around a loose confederation of schools, rivalries, and the specific social architecture of people who spend significant time trying to submit each other and have developed, through that proximity, a particular radar for authenticity. You couldn't fake it here. Not for long. Cole Briggs and his brother Avery had been fixtures in that community for 8 years. Cole was 33, Avery 30. They trained together, competed together, coached together at a mid-level gym called Ironworks that had a loyal membership and a regional reputation built on Cole's competitive record, 14 wins in sanctioned grappling competition, a submission rate that coaches in the area cited in conversation, and Avery's coaching pedigree, which was real and well-earned and deserved better than what it was currently attached to. They were, as fighters, legitimate. As men, they had developed a habit that legitimate skill sometimes produces in people who stop being challenged, a comfort with dominance that had migrated from the mat into their general relationship with the world. They had been waiting, without knowing it, for the right person to correct this. His name was Joseph Callahan. He was 51 years old. He had moved to Port Ashland 14 months earlier, taken a house on the east side, enrolled his son Marcus, 15, serious, quietly competitive in the way of boys who have grown up watching their fathers be disciplined, in the junior program at a small traditional judo school across town. Joseph worked remotely. Infrastructure security consulting, the kind of work that exists at the intersection of technical knowledge and institutional trust and that produces, in the people who do it well, a specific kind of patient, systematic thinking. He was methodical in the way his work required. He was private in the way his previous life had made natural. He was not, to look at him, remarkable. Medium height. Fit but not ostentatiously so, the fitness of maintenance rather than performance, of a body kept functional because functionality had once been a professional requirement and the habit had simply continued. He had a calm face and a measured way of speaking, and he had, upon moving to Port Ashland, attracted no attention whatsoever, which was precisely what he had intended. He attended Marcus's judo tournaments. Sat in the bleachers. Watched with the focused stillness of a man who understood what he was watching and had no need to demonstrate that understanding to anyone around him. Cole Briggs had seen him at 3 tournaments before the day everything changed. Had registered him as father, spectator, civilian. Had been wrong about all 3 in the way that mattered. The tournament was a regional qualifier. Marcus was competing in the under-16 division. He had worked for 4 months toward this, early mornings, Thursday evening practice, a focused and honest preparation that Joseph had watched without commentary, offering only the specific technical observations that were useful and none of the emotional inflation that would have felt good in the moment and meant nothing on the mat. Marcus went 3-1. Made the podium. Stood on the second step with the particular expression of a young man who has done something real and knows it and doesn't yet know how to wear that knowledge. Joseph watched from the bleachers. He felt something in his chest that he didn't name. He didn't need to name it. He knew what it was. The parking lot afterward was the usual post-tournament dispersal, families loading cars, competitors exchanging numbers, the specific social warmth of a community gathering that has gone well. Cole and Avery had competed in the adult division. Cole had won his bracket. He was in the parking lot in the loose, expansive mood of a man whose day has confirmed his existing opinion of himself, which is the most dangerous mood for a man like Cole to be in. He saw Joseph loading gear into a mid-size sedan. He had seen Joseph before. Had placed him in the category he'd assigned and left him there. What happened next happened because Cole was in that particular mood, and because Avery was standing there as an audience, and because neither of them had ever been made to understand, concretely and physically, the cost of treating that category as accurate. "Hey!" Cole called it across 2 rows of cars. "Your kid the one who won silver?" Joseph looked up. "Yeah," he said. "Good tournament," Cole said. "Not a compliment." "The shape of one." Joseph nodded. Continued loading. "He trains at Kenji's place, right? The old judo school?" "That's right." Cole looked at Avery. Something passed between them, the private language of brothers who have done this before. "Old school," Cole said. "Respect." The word carrying no respect. "You train?" Joseph closed the trunk. "Some," he said. Cole smiled the smile. "Yeah? Where?" "Different places," Joseph said. "Different places," Cole repeated. To Avery, with the performance of a man playing to an audience of one. "Mysterious." Joseph looked at him. He had the look of a man taking a reading. Temperature, pressure, trajectory. The practiced assessment of someone who has spent years evaluating situations before deciding how to engage with them. He decided, at this moment, to disengage. "Good tournament to you both," he said. And walked toward the driver's door. Cole moved. Not aggressively, not yet, but the calculated movement of a man closing distance to see what happens when distance is closed. "What discipline?" he said. Joseph stopped. Hand on the door. "I'm sorry. What discipline?" "You said different places." "Judo? BJJ? You look like maybe." "I look like a man getting in his car," Joseph said. The parking lot had that quality of very specific quiet, not empty, not unobserved, but the witnesses suddenly not making noise. Cole looked at him. Then he laughed. "No offense, man. Just curious." "None taken," Joseph said. And opened the door. Cole put a hand on the door. Not hard. Not threatening, technically. Just, a hand on the door. "We run open mats on Sunday," Cole said. "You should come. Show us what different places taught you." Joseph looked at the hand on his door. Then at Cole. "Move your hand," he said. Cole left it there. 1 beat. 2. Avery on the other side of the car now, completing the geometry. Joseph looked at Avery. Then back at Cole. "Last time," Joseph said. Quiet. Even. The voice of a man who means it and is not interested in hearing himself mean it twice. Cole felt something in the air of the parking lot change. He couldn't identify what it was. He would think about it later, lying awake on a Tuesday night 2 weeks after this, staring at the ceiling, and still not be able to name it. Something in the quality of Joseph Callahan's stillness that his body understood and his certainty didn't. He didn't move his hand. What happened next took 11 seconds. This was established later by the footage, which, ironically, was Avery's doing. Avery had his phone out, recording, because they had done versions of this before and the footage tended to circulate in ways that benefited them. Cole on top. Cole dominant. Cole the apex of a social hierarchy demonstrated publicly. Avery kept recording. He would regret this. Cole reached with his other hand, a wrestler's instinct, a collar tie, the initiation of a control position, and the 11 seconds began. Joseph moved inside the reach. Inside was the word every witness used, independently, in subsequent conversations. Not away. Not backward. Inside, eliminating the distance before the technique could develop, moving through the space Cole had opened rather than away from it, which was not what wrestlers expect and not what the body instinctively prepares for. Cole's arm was controlled at the elbow. A rotation. Joseph's weight shifted once, a single committed movement, and Cole Briggs, 14 competitive wins, 8 years of training, legitimate skill, went over Joseph's hip and into the side of the sedan with a sound like certainty being revised. He hit the ground. Avery moved. Joseph looked at him. Not a threat. Not a stance. Just a look. The look of a man who has resolved one situation and is assessing the next one and has no particular feeling about the outcome. Avery stopped. There is a thing that highly trained fighters sometimes describe, a recognition that arrives before analysis, a reading of another person's physical presence that bypasses the conscious mind and speaks directly to something older and more survival-oriented. Avery Briggs had trained for 10 years and had developed this sensitivity and was now receiving information from it that his pride was struggling to process. The information was, do not. He stopped. Cole was on the ground. His competitive record was also, in some sense, on the ground with him. Joseph looked at both of them. I'm going to get my son, he said. And we're going to leave. He did. Avery posted the video that night. This was the mistake. The actual one. He posted it to the circuit's community page with a caption that was intended to frame it as Cole being ambushed, as a cheap shot, as something other than what the footage clearly showed. He had not watched it carefully enough. He had not understood what the footage contained, not just the 11 seconds, but the 20 seconds before them. Cole's hand on the door. The geometry of 2 men and 1 civilian. The timeline of who had initiated what. The community watched it. The community watched it carefully. By morning, the comments were not what Avery had anticipated. Harris Chen had been running the Port Ashland Regional Circuit for 11 years. He was a former competitor, nationally ranked, briefly, before a knee injury revised his trajectory, and he had built the circuit with a specific philosophy: the mat is honest, and the community around it should be too. He had enforced this philosophy with the quiet persistence of a man who cared about the thing more than about being liked for caring. He watched the video at 6:15 in the morning with his coffee getting cold. He watched it 4 times. Then he made 2 phone calls. The first was to the Ironworks gym owner. The second was to a contact in the veterans community, a man named Reeves who had moved to Port Ashland 3 years earlier and had, quietly, become someone Harris called when he needed to understand something he didn't have full context for. Harris described what he'd seen in the footage. Described the man in the gray jacket. Described the 11 seconds. Reeves was quiet for a moment. 11 seconds, he said. Yeah. Another pause. That's not sport training, Reeves said. That's something else. Harris already knew. He needed someone to confirm it. Can you find out who he is? Harris said. It took Reeves 2 days. Joseph Callahan had served 23 years. Navy. The specific branch of Navy that doesn't appear on recruiting posters and doesn't require elaboration to people who know what to look for. He had trained under systems that competitive fighters read about and study from the outside, the way civilians study surgery, understanding the theory, unable to replicate the practice, missing the decade of accumulated instinct that makes the practice what it is. He had deployed to places. Done things. Come home in the specific way of men who have made peace with what they've done without requiring external validation of that peace. He had retired at 47. Had taken a consulting role in a field that valued his security clearance and his systematic mind. Had moved to Port Ashland for reasons that had to do with a custody arrangement and a son who needed stability and a city large enough to disappear into quietly. He had been invisible for 14 months. Cole Briggs had ended that. Harris called Cole into his office. Cole arrived with the prepared posture of a man who has been told he might be in trouble and has constructed, in the intervening hours, an alternative version of events that casts himself favorably. Harris let him give the version. Then Harris played the video. The actual video. All of it. Without the caption. Cole watched himself put his hand on a stranger's car door. Watched himself hold it there. Watched 11 seconds revise his understanding of himself. Harris let the silence sit. I spoke to some people, Harris said. About the man in the gray jacket. Cole said nothing. Harris told him what Reeves had told him. Not all of it. Enough. Cole looked at the paused video on Harris's laptop. He never said anything, Cole said. It came out quiet. Almost to himself. No, Harris said. He didn't. The silence in the office had texture. Your sanctioned competition privileges are suspended for 6 months, Harris said. Ironworks is on probation, one more incident and they're out of the circuit entirely. That's not negotiable. He looked at Cole steadily. And you're going to contact that man directly. Whatever that conversation looks like, that's between you. But you're going to have it. Cole looked at the floor. The video, Harris said. Avery needs to take it down. Today. It's already been shared, Cole said. I know, Harris said. Take it down anyway. The video's second life was something neither brother had intended. Once it began circulating beyond the local circuit, shared by a combat sports account with a larger following, then picked up by a veterans community page with the caption removed and the footage allowed to speak for itself, it developed its own gravity. Comments from people who recognized what they were seeing. Former military who identified the movement pattern, the economy of it, the complete absence of excess. Joseph didn't see it for 4 days. Marcus showed him. Joseph sat at the kitchen table and watched 11 seconds of himself. He watched it once. Set the phone down. You okay? Marcus asked. Yeah, Joseph said. He was quiet for a moment. I'd have preferred it not exist, he said. Marcus nodded. I know. Joseph looked at the phone. It exists, he said. Can't change that. He stood up. Put his coffee cup in the sink. You've got practice Thursday, he said. Make sure your grips are where Coach Kenji wants them. Your left side is still loose. Marcus looked at him. That's it, he said. Joseph looked at his son. That's it, he said. The rest is already handled. Cole's message arrived on a Wednesday evening. It was long. Longer than Cole was comfortable writing, which meant it was probably the right length. It described what he'd done, without excuses, without the alternative framing. It described what he'd learned about Joseph's service, with the specific acknowledgement that it shouldn't have taken that information to produce the apology. That the apology was owed before the information. That the information just made the debt more visible, which was not the same as creating it. It was, Harris would later say when he heard about it, the most self-aware thing Cole Briggs had written in his adult life. Joseph read it once. He sat with it for a day. He wrote back 4 sentences. Apology accepted. What you do with this is your business. I'd suggest you think about what you're teaching the people who train under you, not on the mat, but around it. That's where it matters most. He sent it. Closed his laptop. Went to the window. The east side of Port Ashland was settling into its evening, the particular autumn light that made the ordinary streets look, briefly, like somewhere worth choosing. He had chosen it. For Marcus. For the custody schedule. For the quiet. The quiet was intact. He intended to keep it that way. Marcus won gold at the next tournament. Joseph watched from the bleachers. Same seat, same stillness, same focused attention. No one in the bleachers around him knew anything about him. He was a father watching his son compete. That was the whole story, as far as anyone there was concerned. That was the story Joseph preferred. The other one, the 11 seconds, the video, the 2 brothers in a parking lot learning the cost of their assumptions, that story existed and had traveled and would continue to travel through the specific networks that carry such things. Joseph had no interest in that story. He had the bleachers. The autumn light. His son on the mat, grips correct now, left side locked, competing with the seriousness of a boy who had been taught that preparation is the only thing that doesn't lie to you. He had this. He watched. He did not need anything else. If this story found something in you, if you've sat in a bleacher next to a man like Joseph Callahan and never known it, if you've understood something about quiet men and what they carry and what they choose not to show, this channel is built for that recognition. Subscribe. There are more of them. The ones who don't announce themselves. The ones you never see coming until they decide you should. The next story is already waiting.